Hello everyone, and today we're going to project how much Bitcoin shorter could be according to the last cycle where Joe Biden was elected president, and we're going to project towards the end of this year based on last cycle's election toward the end of the year and the all-time high. Now, some of these numbers are going to be pretty high and they might actually surprise you what it would take this time around to match the performance of last time around, despite that Joe Biden being seen as a fairly anti-crypto president. And also, we're going to take $63,000 as the high for last time. Why? Because we all know that the $69,000 was manipulated by SBF. So we're going to take that out and just go with the non-SBF manipulated price for the top, which I believe would have been $64,000. If you want to calculate it with $69,000, that's perfectly fine. I understand that. But I do believe the reason that Bitcoin went up to 69 and altcoins didn't really follow last time, it was because it was purely an SBF manipulation. And obviously we had to pay for that later. So we're going to take $63,000 as the apex in last April. And of course, that's when most altcoins max out as well. So going by that projection, we're going to have to look at the chart to see what actually happened last time. Now, last time, remember, the election was around November 4th or 5th, 2020, if I remember correctly. On November 7th, 2020, we were at $14,800. November 4th or 5th, I think we were like $100 or $200, like a couple $100 lower. I do think we were pretty much at like $14,500 or $14,400 on November 4th or 5th. So that was the election day price. Now, let's actually take a look at the end of the year. We have December 30th, 2020, and that was at $28,800. But obviously the last day of the year is December 31st. So December 31st was slightly higher at like around $29,200 or something. So based on that, we roughly doubled between election day and the end of the year. What does that mean? Well, on election day this year, we were at about $65,000. And so to match 2020 and Joe Biden's election bull run in terms of ROI, the end of the year would have to end at $130,000. If we don't reach $130,000, then Bitcoin actually had less ROI between election day and the end of the year than it did back in 2020. Now, if according to that, and we went up all the way to $63,000, basically by the peak of the bull run, remember I said we're taking 63 because 69 was basically an SBF manipulated run. So if we take $63,000 and then divide it by 14,500, that's the ratio that we should actually get in terms of like what percentage of the max are we at? And of course, we have to multiply that by $65,000 to get the peak price, which is $283,785. So we'd have to get slightly over $280,000 to match the ROI from election day last cycle to the peak of the bull run last cycle. Obviously, if you take $69,000, it's going to be over $300,000. So if we don't reach over $280,000, we will actually be underperforming in terms of ROI compared to 2020. Now, in a maturing market, each bull run is supposed to be slightly less than the last one, and each bear market is supposed to be slightly better, and that has actually played out. Remember, after 2017 bull run, 2018 bull run, we actually went down about 80%, if not a little bit more. I think it's around 80%. It was like $20,000 to $3,000 because CSW is like a whole hash war type of thing. However, then after that, we went from $69,000 or $63,000, whichever one you want to take, to about $15,000. And that's only about 75%. So we went down like 80, 85% down the previous time. We only went down 70 to 75% the time after. So this time it might be only 60 to 65%. But either way, if we actually take the ratio from election day in 2020 to the max in 2021, and we extrapolate it to right now, we would have over $280,000. Now, that might seem like a lot. You might not be able to reach it. I think there's a possibility that we'll reach that. I wouldn't bet on it. I'm still holding to my prediction of $150,000, but I think that might be a little too low right now, looking at the euphoria that's just hit. However, though that isn't the only theory that we can actually model on, in terms of $14,500, that is like without an ETF being accepted a couple of months before. And obviously we had that ETF boost. So some people might actually be saying that, like, we won't have the exact same growth because Bitcoin should be actually quite a bit lower right before election day than $65,000. And without the ETF, I agree, it would be a lot lower than $65,000. So essentially, what should be the bull run top this time? Well, if we take $63,000, if we actually take $63,000, 63,300, and you divide it by 19.7, 63.3 divided by 19,700. Bull run from one bull run to the other, you have 3.213. Then you multiply it by the bull run top, which was going to take us 63,000, and you would actually get $200,000. So if we have the same ratio from the 2017 to 2020 to 2024, 2025, we should have about $203,000. So all of these are significantly above my projections of $150,000. So the thing is, like, and according to this particular projection, the year-end price should actually be around $101,000 instead of $130,000. Now, can we reach $101,000? That's a lot easier than $130,000. Obviously, right now we are going in for a pretty big retrace. I think we could actually hit $86,000, $85,000 and take a while to breach $90,000. However, we do actually have an inflation report coming up, and I do believe the inflation report will actually be pretty good because gas prices have gone down because China's demand's gone down for the last several months. So with inflation coming down, I do think we can possibly break right above 90,000 within a couple of days. And then after that, we should be clear to go on to 100,000. But I do think 100,000 will be a hard resistance. And I do think we'll be rejected several times before we finally break through. But I do think we will break through maybe on a Christmas rally or sometime towards the end of the year. So I do think we can outperform $100,000, but not quite $130,000. So I do think this this bull run performance between election day and the end of the year will be somewhat similar to last time's, because even though cycle after cycle is supposed to get less, I do think the Trump administration is looked at as much more favorable to crypto than the Biden administration. And plus, there's euphoria around. And plus, Gary Gensler, the prospect of Gary Gensler not being around and bothering us probably pumps that as well. But it doesn't matter which one of the models you take, whether it's peak to peak or like from now until election day, from election day until the end of the year, and then like that ratio extrapolated to election day to the top of the bull run. Whichever one you take, the lesser one, we would end at about $200,000 in the bull run. The greater one, we would end up about $283,000 on the bull run. The lesser one, we would end the year at about $101,000. The greater one, we would end the year at $130,000. And if we're somewhere in between $101,000 and $130,000, then we're roughly in the ballpark of exactly the exact amount of run that we had in 2020 after Joe Biden got elected, as this time around after Donald Trump got elected. So that's just kind of like an introspective look at like how much we should actually be based on models of what happened in the last bull run. And some of you are probably hoping now that since this administration is going to be more friendly towards crypto than the last one, that this bull run should be bigger and we should go up faster. I hope that as well, but I don't think too many people would be upset if we reached about $125,000, $130,000 by the end of the year, which is kind of like where we were in the last cycle as well. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.